You can be really good at your life and still feel like it is not something you're actually in. Now, of course, you handle what needs to be handled, and people count on you, and your life may even look successful from the outside. In fact, you probably feel really grateful for most of your life. And still, there are moments when it feels like you are managing. You're just surviving and checking boxes in your life more than you're actually living it. You keep the appointments and you manage the relationships and the work and everything the family needs. And of course, you tie up all the loose ends and things that no one else is noticing as you move forward. And you become the person that's responsible for keeping your life and everyone else's life running. And it's likely that you never really stop to consider whether you're truly present in your life. I mean, who has time for that? It can be really difficult to admit that. And really, there's likely nothing that's dramatically wrong. I mean, you love your family, you care about your work, you're proud of what you have built. And you look around and you know that there's a lot that's really amazing about your life. So having built all of this, it can be confusing when you start to notice that it feels a little off. You might even ask yourself, like, what's wrong with me? What's the problem here? Or maybe you ask, why am I not happier? Or other people would love this life. And then the guilt arrives before you even have a chance to really understand what you're feeling. And I think that a lot of women live in that tension where you're both grateful and disconnected, proud and yet really tired of maintaining it all. Successful, yet pretty sure that the success that you're feeling doesn't really feel like it's supposed to or like you expected it to. And you may not necessarily want, to leave your life and throw it all away, of course. But you also may be wondering if it has to feel this way. Is there a different option? And that's an important distinction because when we begin questioning our lives, we often assume that there's only one possible conclusion, and that is that we've made terrible decisions or we need to make some dramatic change to have it be different. And that fear can stop the conversation before it even begins. Now, of course, we don't want to be reckless. We don't want to throw away what we've worked hard to create. We don't want to hurt people. And um, self absorption and irresponsibility are not who you are. Because, see, that's how we identify this change. Um, it is not how we identify ourselves. So we just keep going. We tell ourselves it's just a busy season. I'll think about it when I have more space. Things will feel different when the project is finished, when the kids need less, when business settles down, when the house is organized, when the holidays are over. Um, we'll look at it when we finally get caught up. And there is always something just ahead of us that that promises that life will feel different once we reach it. And many of us are very practiced at postponing our own arrival. We know how to get through the week. We know how to meet the deadlines and how to manage difficult seasons in life. We always figure it out. But managing life and actually experiencing your life are not the same thing. See, if you can find yourself in any of these qualities that we're talking about here, several of them may apply to you. Some women, this shows up on how much attention they give to everyone else. They know what people need. They can read the room and know when someone is upset. And even before anything is said, they know if uh, if they need to perhaps soften their tone, when people need to be reassured, when to step in, when to let something go. Um, when and how to make the day easier for other people. You're thoughtful and generous and considerate, and people often feel really comfortable around you. Because, see, when you have spent years of your life paying close attention to everyone else, you lose some access to your own experience. You know what everyone else wants for dinner and what would make the family happy or what would avoid conflict. You know those things innately. And yet, when someone asks you, what do you want? The question feels uh, harder than it should. You, you may even ask with what makes the most sense and what's easiest and what works for everyone. And of course, what's most practical. You may even not notice that you never actually answered the question. And there's other women. And the answer has always been for those women, keep moving. There's another goal to reach. There's another project to finish. There's another box to check. There's another place where progress can be made. Accomplishment gives the day not only direction, it offers something concrete to point to. You can say, look, I'm moving forward. Therefore, by measurement, I'm winning. There is reassurance in productivity since it's measurable. You can complete it. You have proof that the day mattered. You have proof that in turn you mattered. But see, experiencing your life and living it and being fully present in it is much less measurable. There's no external reward or recognition for being present on an ordinary Tuesday. There's no internal or external acknowledgement because you sat outside for 20 minutes and just let yourself absorb and enjoy the afternoon sunshine. There's no recognition for noticing that you did not want to say yes and taking that seriously. The things that make life feel like yours can very easily be dismissed because they don't look important. And if you have spent years measuring your days by what you accomplished, a day that was simply lived can feel um, unproductive, inefficient, and you can even feel like that time was wasted. So, the next group of women are women that can immediately see that something could be better. You walk into the room and notice what needs attention. You finish the project and you immediately know what could have been better about it. You care about quality, of course, and you care about doing things well. You may even have excellence on your license plate. I don't know anything about that. You have standards, and those standards are often what helped you create your not only excellence in work, but also the belief of that's how it should be. And it can become really difficult to rest inside anything as is. Everything could always be better. The house could be cleaner, the work could be better. You could be more patient and more disciplined, and you could be more organized. Perhaps you could be more thoughtful. There's always another improvement available. And when your eye has been trained to see what needs improving, then your life can begin to feel like an ongoing renovation project. Even the good moments are interrupted by the thought of, how could they be better? Um, then there are women who have learned how to keep things from becoming a problem. You know what to let go of and what not to mention, and how to adjust yourself before anyone else becomes uncomfortable. Um, you don't want conflict, or you don't want to make a big deal out of something that can just be managed. You compromise. Perhaps you even see everyone's side and you always want to smooth things over. After a while, everyone may experience you, as easygoing while you carry the entire backlog of things that supposedly didn't matter enough to discuss. The life around you may look peaceful, but inside it doesn't feel peaceful. Um, you're the one that's keeping everyone happy, um, accomplishing, preparing for every possibility. Maybe you're the one that's improving everything that you touch. Perhaps you're wanting to make sure that nothing is too disruptive. But each of these types of women, whichever place you find yourself, or maybe you find yourself in multiple places, can become so effective at managing life that you disappear inside the management of it. And because these qualities are useful and admired and rewarded, nobody sees a problem. People appreciate that you remember and step in and get things done. And they appreciate that you care about the quality and keeping things from escalating. Um, People are benefiting from your competence. They likely have no idea that you might be feeling like a supporting character in a life built around your labor. You may not even be fully aware of it. See, I used to think that I escaped a lot of this because I had taken a less conventional life path. I became an entrepreneur. I didn't follow the traditional version of what life was supposed to look like. So I believed I was making my own rules. And in some ways, I was. But years later, I had to really face the fact that taking a different route didn't necessarily mean that I had stopped looking outside of myself for the destination. I was still pursuing success and still proving and still becoming whatever was required in the moment. I had built a life that I could be proud of, and I was proud of it. And I also recognized that I had spent a lot of that life managing it, improving it, and working hard to make it mean something. The unsettling part was realizing that I had known what I wanted and had worked very hard to create. What I didn't know was that getting what I wanted wasn't necessarily going to produce the life that I would love living. And that realization was slow. It showed up in my tiredness and in the lack of fulfillment. I kept thinking that the next accomplishment would resolve it. And in the endless to do lists and the constant focus on what was coming next, I began to see that my life was passing me by while I was on my way to the next thing that was supposed to make me feel as though I had finally arrived. It showed up. Uh, it showed up in the accomplishment that didn't feel the way I expected it to. It also showed up in the free afternoon that I immediately filled with work because, of course, I did. And that kind of realization can be hard to explain. Like you may not be miserable or in crisis, but you simply become aware that much of your day is spent in response or reaction to messages, needs, deadlines, problems, expectations, and whatever someone else forgot. And by the time you've responded to everything requiring your attention, there may be very little left of you for the life that is under all that maintenance. Think about how often your day begins with what needs to happen and what needs to be handled. I remember someone saying, I got six most important things to do before I even get out of bed in the morning. Um, we're always thinking about who needs something, what cannot be forgotten, what problems have to be solved, and what conversations need my attention. What would make today successful? Those questions have a place, but they can become so dominant that other questions begin to disappear. Questions like, what am I enjoying? What am I curious about? What do I miss? even what feels meaningful to me now. What am I no longer interested in pretending about? What do I want to experience rather than just what do I want to complete? Those questions can almost feel indulgent when you're used to organizing your life around being useful. And usefulness can be a really familiar way of relating to yourself. So you're useful to your family, and then, of course, at work and in crisis. Um, you're useful in all of the places that things need fixed, organized, improved, or smoothed. Usefulness can create this meaningful life, but it can also become such a central identity that you stop knowing who you are outside of useful. Maybe that's why sitting still can feel uncomfortable. Uh, Maybe that's why being asked what you want can leave you feeling uncertain. There are signs. You know, the signs can be you finish everything on the list and you still don't feel satisfied. Get a little dopamine hit, and then that was it. You you perhaps plan the vacation so thoroughly that everyone else has a wonderful time, and you come home needing a vacation from the vacation. Um, Perhaps you finally get an open afternoon, and then you immediately begin looking for all of the things that should fill that time because you got to be productive. Someone asks you, perhaps, what would you enjoy? And you answer with what would be the easiest for everyone else. You reach for something that you worked toward for years, and you achieve it. And instead of feeling fully there and present in it and celebratory of it, your mind moves immediately to what's next. These are ordinary moments, and that's why they're so easy to miss. It's not some dramatic life collapse. Life continues to function. You continue to function, and you may even do it exceptionally well. And that part is why it takes so long to notice. And we pay attention when something breaks. We're less likely to notice when life is just being maintained. So you have to wonder how much of life has been spent being useful inside of it. And how often have you been present? Um, and the real parts of you and qualities that you value have been missed. I think one of the really important things to remember is that there's more to living than keeping everything function. There is more enjoyment and connection to you and to others, and rest and curiosity um, that we miss when we're busy managing. There is the experience of being this person inside your life rather than the person assigned to run life, yours and everyone else's. So maybe the life that you keep working towards is not waiting somewhere up ahead. Maybe it's already here in these ordinary days, in the people that you love and the moments that you keep moving through on your way to whatever comes next. That was the realization for me. I had spent so much of my life believing that the next accomplishment and the next goal, the next finished list would finally give me the feeling of arrival. But my life was not going to somehow magically begin when I got there. It was happening right now, while I was getting there. And what I realized is I didn't want to keep missing it.